Hello, hello. Welcome back. Here we are in the Flexbox challenge, or the first Flexbox challenge. I think we'll probably be talking a bit more about Flexbox because it is extremely useful if we're going to be making layouts as opposed to simply putting things on the page and styling individual elements like borders and padding and such. When you're making layouts and you want a page to behave in a certain way, and especially when you want a page to behave in a certain way regardless of the width or the height of the window, then Flexbox is extremely useful. So let's dive into this specific display property. And you'll begin to see that the CSS display property in general and its various values are very useful and potentially very confusing. It's one of the sources of big confusion in CSS. But let's jump right in. So we want to use the display property and justify content to evenly space the links in mobile nav. So let's see mobile nav. Here we have some mobile nav styles. We can ignore these. Great. And we have the mobile nav here. We have the class mobile nav and we have 3 A tags inside of it. So let's see, what do we want to do? We want to space them out using justify content. So in this challenge, this is another one of those challenges where we may just end up completely solving it in the video, but we'll go on to cover a few more things if we do. So let's say we have a mobile nav A. Let's style we'll remove that, mobile nav itself. So we're using display here, and display block is the default. You'll see that nothing changes. We can comment it out, bring it back, comment it out, bring it back. Nothing is changing here. But if we say display flex, not very different, is it? Oh? Yeah, it is not very different, but it is different. So when you have display flex, it does some interesting things. It affects all of its children. So we have the mobile nav here, and all of its children are all these tags inside of it, directly inside of it. We have 3 A tags. And before A tags will, let's move that. A tags have this space in between them because there's actually a space in between them here in the DOM. We can go over here, and you'll see there's no space anymore, right? But if we add that space, we do get a space. So they're sort of like, it's like any text in that sense. They're like letters in a word. Hey, if we type hey, and then we put a space between the H and the E, then we get a space there, and the E and the Y. So exactly, and I can, oops, well that just jumped back to my editor. All right, well we don't want that. So we'll remove that, and that's something to note about the A tags is that they have this space in between them, and that's because the tags aren't literally touching. Again, put that over there. We can take this A tag, oops. So right now there's no space in there. Okay, enough about this spacing business. Display flex. So that doesn't deal in this like letter by letter style spacing. It doesn't matter that there is white space in between the end of this A tag and the beginning of this A tag. It does not matter. Display flex is going to take all the children and display them according to the flex properties you assign. And right now, by default, for A tags, it's pretty similar. By default, it's going to display things horizontally. So you get a nice horizontal row of things. We can take another div down here. Let's make a div class mobile nav, and we're going to give it the exact same class, not because it is a mobile nav. In this case, it's simply because by using the same class, I now have another element that has display flex on it. So we can take a p tag. Well, let's get very creative with our naming here. P tag. And we will say, let's just get another p tag. No class. So we have these 2 p tags, and if you notice, they're right up against each other, which is unusual for p tags. let's take the display flex styling off, and ignoring the links at the top here, you'll see we have what you expect from p tags, as in they display like paragraphs. Paragraphs generally have space between them, and that's true of these p tags. We have this, hey there, we have this, that was another p tag, and they're on separate lines. But if we bring back flex, you'll see they're on the same line. And we can, to make that a bit more clear, we can say, where's p tag? Not class, p tag background. And what are you thinking? Some salmon or tomato? No. It's lime, that'll stand out. And then in general, we can say all p tags will have a background of salmon. Yeah, I know you want some salmon in there. So we have background of salmon here, background of lime there, and you'll see those are the two p tags. We have two separate tags just right up against each other. And this, you may be thinking this is kind of overkill, or you may have already fast forwarded, in which case I'm not talking to you. But the reason I'm going over this again is because it can be very, especially when you don't have backgrounds, it can be very confusing to actually see what all these tags are doing and what a specific property is doing with your tags. So back to display flex. What we can do now that we have display flex is we can start doing interesting things with the children based on flex content. So flex properties, I mean. I said that because I was thinking in my mind, justify content. And what we can say center. So here's one option. If you want things horizontally centered, you see like maybe we have this this nav at the top there. And we can, let's go, I can comment that out. Yeah, there's a horizontal nav. Looks pretty standard. Bring back that background tomato. And we can take away that. That's not important right now. And so we have our p tags down there too. I'm just going to leave them in for a second example as we go through these. And justify content is mainly what this challenge is about. You'll see display. We want to evenly space the links out. So what did we want to evenly space? Let's try some other properties. Let's say space between. And hey, yeah, I know that I wrote this test, but I had forgotten what I was actually testing for. So space between. But more importantly than the passing test, we can ignore that. We can ignore all this actually. Let's full screen editor. So you'll see that without us having to set any margins and set any padding, do anything other than this one line of code, we now have these items that display really nicely with the space available to them. They justify themselves on the page as you'd have justified text that takes up the full width. We can also say space around, which does something else. You'll notice that there's an even amount of space on either side of each element. So between elements you get double, but look over here, I can whip out the pen for this. We have this amount of space, and there are two of those amounts of space inside there. And so every element has the same spacing. There it is. Yeah. We can, what else do we have? We can say we have space between, space around, center, and flex end. So this is much like if you've seen text where we can, well, I'll just show you real quick with the, with the paragraphs. If the paragraphs, we can say, let's just say all p tags are text align right. And you'll see the text jumps over there. And that's because I'm typing too fast. The background is wheat. So you can see the p tag takes up the entire width of the page. And if we say, hey text, go to the right, as in this text line right property, then the text jumps over there to the right. And similarly, we can, so, I'm actually gonna, let's let those p tags just, be out on their own for now. They don't need to be part of this whole Flexbox example we're doing. Flex end does something very similar. It takes all of your items that are within your Flex container, within mobile nav in this case, within whatever element has display flex set, and it moves them all to flex end, which in this case is right. And the reason that this is called flex end instead of, say, right is because flex end doesn't necessarily mean to the right. The quote-unquote end of your flex container and the start are dependent on your other flex properties. So this is a horizontal flex container, but this could also be a column, direction, column. Did I hit that right? No, I did not. I missed an I. So now things are displayed in a columnar fashion from top to bottom. And if we, what we can do to kind of exemplify this, let's say height, what, 700 pixels? Just give it a background red, blue, flex start, and we can say flex end. And so now that you'll see that we have this big old column container, 700, maybe a bit much. Let's go 5. So now you can see flex start and flex end are, it no longer pertains to the right, it pertains to the bottom. And this all has to do with this idea that flex containers can go in any direction that you want, or well, they can go in the two axes. You can choose for them to go up or down, as in flex direction column, or left to right, as in flex direction row. And some of these it may seem like I'm just adding more and more things to remember, and yeah, sure, I may well be, but a lot of these you don't have to remember, like row, because row is the default, just like flex start. Flex start is also the default, so if I delete that, hey, nothing changes. So that is probably a lot more about Flexbox than you wanted to know, given that this challenge only wants you to do something a bit more simple. But hopefully this gives you some context, because we will be using Flexbox extensively later on, and we'll be using it in the projects at the end of this module. All right, see you in the next video.